welcome to a special edition of Newsmakers. The Missouri Southern State University Department of Communication recently held its Regional Media Hall of Fame ceremony, where 3 media professionals were inducted with a mayoral proclamation and an award. In this program, we show you why they were chosen and their impact on the community. We begin with Joplin Globe news reporter Debbie Wooden.
The parade is usually a big part of Joplin's holiday season.
Debbie Wooden has been a part of Joplin's story for more than 5 decades, documenting the big moments, fighting for transparency, and preserving the truth for future generations, and she is still at it. Her relationship with newspapers began when she was just a child. She discovered her passion for writing in high school when a teacher encouraged Debbie to pursue journalism.
She asked me, "Do you think that you would like to work at a newspaper?" And I said, yeah. I had read the Joplin Globe newspaper about all my life because my grandmother taught me how to read by using the Bible and the Joplin Globe.
At Memorial High School, only juniors and seniors were typically allowed to work on the student newspaper, but since Debbie's talent stood out so clearly, her teacher decided to make an exception.
But she accepted me as a sophomore. So I worked on the high school paper. I became managing editor at the time. And I used to go out and take pictures for the ads. So I got to know a lot of people in Joplin, business people, just because of that.
By 1974, she was inside the Globe newsroom as a copy girl. Her tasks, like attending to the teletype machines, were hands-on, essential, and unforgettable.
And so every other time I worked, I had to clean those machines, make sure they weren't dusty. I had to take the ribbons that were like typewriter ribbons out and put new ones in, make sure that the ink was working and that all of the keys that were doing the printing were working, and that kind of thing.
Every shift taught her something new about journalism, about people, about Joplin. She would write for the social pages, engagements, wedding announcements.
And they just kept changing, having me do new things over the years, so it didn't get at all boring or it wasn't the same old thing, for a long time.
She listened, she learned, and before long, she was pitching her own stories as a high school insider.
I'd go up to the editor and say, "Hey, so-and-so did this today at school, or would that make a story?" And he'd say, "We've already got it." So I don't remember ever telling him about anything that happened in schools that he didn't already know about or have a story about. So, but I guess he took that as the fact that I was interested in the news. And so they kind of trained me out, sent me out to sink or swim on my own and fly by the seat of my pants.
One of the earliest and most defining moments of her career came in 1978, when the historic Connor Hotel collapsed.
I didn't have many stories under my belt yet when the Connor Hotel collapsed, as it was being prepared for demolition. And I remember the day they called all of us into work, and there was just a huge pile of brick and mortar and windows.
Her co-worker, reporter Wallace Kennedy, covered the rescue of one of the survivors, Alfred Summers. The morning after the rescue, Debbie's relationship with the demolition crew led her to the hospital, where she became the first reporter to talk with survivor Alfred Summers.
Alfred, of course, was very weak. He had been under that rubble for 3 days, I believe. He did try to talk to me, and as a result, I got a story, the first interview that was done with Alfred Summers after he was brought out alive from under the Connor. And here is the story with a photo that we took I think a photographer was allowed in after I got to talk to him to get this photo of Alfred Summers in his hospital bed.
She had landed a story that reporters from across the country were chasing, and it changed everything.
That was my first real experience getting hooked on, getting ink in my blood, I guess you would say.
She has been hooked ever since. While the newsroom evolved, from dark rooms and delivery trucks to digital uploads and printing in Tulsa, Debbie's commitment to accuracy never changed. Wallace Kennedy, now a columnist, has become one of her closest colleagues and friends. He says her commitment has never wavered.
What's really great about Debbie is her dedication to accuracy and getting it right. And that is the thing I really respect about her.
Accuracy, fairness, and context. She believes the public deserves nothing less.
I think the other thing that's one of her strengths is that she listens to people, and then she gets information from other sources to corroborate what she has learned, and that means the reader's getting a serious effort in terms of, presenting both sides of the picture.
Inside the newsroom, she is the one still working long after the meeting ends.
Debbie is often there after I leave. I'll still see her there in the evenings. She's working. She's been covering city council for years, going in at nights, going to all of these meetings.
Her dedication brings accountability and trust. Asking uncomfortable questions is part of the job, and Debbie understands that integrity is a public service.
You've got to be very careful, and because you have to present both sides and be fair, but you also have to have a responsibility to let people know that if the situation is not what it should be or could be better, that's what you're supposed to do. As a journalist.
Her coverage of the Joplin tornado and the city's recovery was award-winning, and her dedication stood out to those who worked alongside her, including her editor, the Joplin Globe's Andy Ostmeyer.
Debbie was in the thick of all of that, reporting on what they were doing, whether it was dealing with the permits or reporting on the rebuilding efforts, and the group that was brought in, Wallace Bajali, to help with the rebuilding. Debbie was on top of all of that.
And when cameras in the courtroom were first allowed, Debbie helped lead that work as the coordinator for Southwest Missouri, which connected her closely with judges and the Missouri Bar.
She was the initial camera in the courtroom coordinator for Southwest Missouri. That was her job, to make sure that, and we do occasionally need to get photographers in the courtroom, but Debbie was, and still is, the center point for all of this kind of conversation about it. And in fact, Debbie still works very closely with the Missouri Bar Association. She's on a committee right now. She has a meeting on Friday, and they're discussing access to information and how do we maintain that access to information so that we can provide it to our community.
That same dedication carried into her later reporting, even when the stories were hard to witness. She covered murder cases that ended in executions, and her reporting took her to the state penitentiary in Potosi. Her background story about convicted killer Richard Oxford revealed an eerie personal trait shared by his high school principal. He told Debbie that whenever Oxford did anything wrong and got caught, he would laugh about it.
So when we were at the execution, and they had him on the gurney, and all of the lines had been installed in his arms and legs to convey the drugs, and he was covered with a sheet. And he, right before they did the execution, he lifted his head up off the table and he saw the victim's family in the window in front of him, and he laughed. And it was exactly the way he had been described to me by the people in Tulsa who had dealt with him over the years.
Throughout it all, she stood up for the public's right to know. Debbie's reporting history is deeply tied to Joplin's own story. She followed the founding of the Joplin Historic Preservation Commission and consistently reported on efforts to protect the city's oldest landmarks. Her coverage of the fight to preserve the Solomon Rothenbarger House showed her deep respect for Joplin's heritage and her dedication to ensuring that the history behind these properties would never be forgotten. Though opportunities arose elsewhere, Debbie stayed rooted in the community she loves.
I applied for a job one time at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and they very nicely offered me a job. And they were willing to pay me a nickel more an hour than I made here. And I had no friends in St. Louis, no family in St. Louis. And I thought, how am I gonna live in St. Louis on a nickel more an hour? So I politely declined the job. And after that, as I said, Joplin's my home. And I appreciate the Joplin community.
Historian Brad Belk says that local loyalty matters more than ever.
I'm an old newspaper guy, and newspapers really hold the key to our past. Debbie has done a marvelous job of recording, taking stories, the tough ones and the fun ones as well. She's an amazing reporter in the sense of her longevity, and her style and the way she writes.
Her editor, Andy Ostmeyer, says Debbie, along with longtime colleagues Wallace Kennedy and Susan Redden, were the backbone of the Joplin Globe.
They just really were the heart and soul of what the newspaper was for many, many decades.
And Wallace Kennedy says her impact on journalism is undeniable.
She's dedicated her life to this pursuit of searching for the truth and getting it out there as much as possible. That's the thing, I think. Yeah, she definitely deserves recognition for that.
For 51 years and counting, Debbie Wooten has been the conscience of the Globe, a listener, a watchdog, a protector of history. Her reporting ensures that the city's history lives on, one story at a time.
Our next inductee is part of the television sales world. Here's a look at the career of John Emmerich.
Every industry has its unsung heroes, the people who show up before the lights come on and leave long after everyone else has gone home. At KODE and KSN, that person has been John Emmerich.
He's the first one in and probably one of the last people out of the building. I remember when I first worked the morning show as a director, he was there at 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, making sure that his customers were taken care of.
John's work ethic doesn't come from the job, it came from home.
When I was a youngster growing up, I remember one time my granddad looked at me and said, "Boy, don't you ever back up to get a paycheck."
His commitment and work ethic stretches past any job description, shaping the station through constant effort beyond his role and unwavering reliability.
He goes in and makes a fresh pot of coffee, wipes down everything. I try to pre-clean before he gets here, but sometimes it's not always as clean as what he gets it. He'll wipe out all the coffee pots. Every time it snows, he asks if anyone needs a ride. He will go pick them up at their houses, even if it's in the middle of the night. He does so many things that you never see, and he truly sets the tone for the station and has for decades, and we're blessed to still have him here.
That selflessness has carried with John through decades in broadcasting and translates to his work with customers to deliver exactly what he promises.
John is probably the most professional man in town, not only in his appearance, but in his follow-up and his attention to detail. And those were things that stood out to us early on. And if you got into a project with John, he always followed up, he was always on the spot, and he always made it happen, and he still does every day.
His colleagues know another truth about him too. When he goes to work for someone, he goes all in.
John's a bulldog. I mean, he's a bulldog. He fights battles for the station out in the field, and he fights battles for his clients at the station.
And unlike many in sales, John never hands his work off once the deal is signed. He carries it all the way through.
And he not only sells you the spot, that's one thing I've always admired about John. He takes that spot all the way through production, makes sure the scheduling's there, and communicates with you every step of the way.
Could I impose on you to show me that Race Brothers spot?
You bet you. Come on around here and I'll let you get a look at it.
All right.
John routinely checks on the progress of a project to be sure they're doing what's right for the client.
Dean, I think it looks like $1 million, and I think Mr. Mason over at Race Brothers will enjoy it as well.
To John, selling is never about the number.
When I put together a schedule, it comes from the heart and not the pocketbook. Because if it works for you, it's going to work for me. We're going to develop a lasting relationship.
That sincerity builds trust, the most valuable currency in the advertising world.
Trust is the most important thing. You want somebody, whenever you're investing a client's dollars in advertising, somebody that takes that like it's their own money.
And for John, that trust is affirming.
I think it means everything. For somebody to trust you with their checkbook, I mean, that's pretty trusting. For them to have that much respect for you and confidence in you, it's humbling.
Clients value that rapport so much they've stayed with him for decades.
His clients are very loyal, and when he came from KODE to KSN, that loyalty just transferred, with John.
Relationships, not transactions, have always been at the center of John's career.
I think that's what makes John so different. Is like he's not just a salesman. He's invested in the building and the business, and he's invested with the people that make it run.
He is very customer oriented. I mean, he really and truly works to make his customers successful. He is great at building relationships. His customers, can count on him, can depend on him. He always does what he says he's going to do.
And with his clients, he takes the time to understand not just their business, but their lives.
And I want them to tell me about what's going on in their family and the family successes, and if there is a bump in the road or whatever. I want to be a part of that.
He also brings imagination to the job, the kind that sets local commercials apart.
I've got a lot of imagination that sometimes gets me in trouble. And no, my name is not Steven Spielberg, but sometimes you want to make a 30-second commercial. You want to make them all as best you can and have a creative idea to it and not be the same cookie cutter and be unique and portray their business in a way that people are they want to go shop there. Well, they want to go in that place of business.
He shares his values freely with others, mentoring young salespeople with honesty and encouragement.
After we hire them, the first thing I say to them, I expect more out of you than you expect out of yourself. Do it your way. That feels good, but if I can give you some guidance or help or verbiage that will help you along the way, then it's worth the conversation.
Seeing the bigger picture makes him not just an asset to the station, but to the television business community. And those who know him say he is worthy of the honor.
It's time to recognize someone from the sales side of the business, and you couldn't really probably pick a more deserving person than John.
I don't belong here. No, it's like I told you. It's very, 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 very humbling. I am what I am. I'm just a old guy that likes to get up and go to work and make friends, customers, and customers' friends.
In every sale he makes, every commercial he nurtures, and every relationship he builds, John embodies integrity, hard work, creativity, and heart. Always the first one in, always the last one out, always the professional who cares. That is the embodiment of a Hall of Famer, of John Emmerich.
The final inductee is broadcaster Ben Woolery, better known to radio listeners as Steve Scott. Let's take a look and listen.
AM 1310, FM 102.9, 105.9, and on your smart speaker, News Talk, KZRG.
Steve Scott is at home. Steve Scott is at home behind the microphone. You could say he has broadcasting in his blood. The first hint to his lifelong career came when he was still in diapers, holding his first microphone. Back then, he was known by his given name, Ben Woolery.
In broadcasting from the time I was age 4 until I actually got my first job at age 14. I actually tore up 6 of my parents' record players playing disc jockey from that time frame. Now, during the same time frame, my dad was appearing on the local TV station in Sedalia weekly for the church organization that he worked for, so I was kind of moved into television as well at the time. I actually took a broken TV antenna that had gotten blown off the roof, made it into a tripod, take a box and made it into a TV camera, and played TV news anchor.
That Sedalia TV station LVO Cable needed content for its local origination channel, and the general manager tapped Ben to be a music DJ at the age of 14.
They started having people DJing on the closed circuit channel with TV cameras set up. And so I was DJing there where they could see me putting the records on the turntables, queuing them up, answering the request line, and actually doing the work. And what was interesting was, now in radio, we're on TV again with Facebook and YouTube streams. So it's kind of like predicting the future back in 1971.
How's the weather today, Steve?
It's going to be rainy later on today. We've got a 100% chance of rain.
His coverage of weather also had roots in his childhood.
And my mom and dad, for my Christmas present one year, bought me a chalkboard United States map for weather drawing so I could draw a weather map.
Ben keeps a constant eye on radar and emerging changes to weather, which he shares with listeners.
Now, we do have a wind advisory that's in effect from 7 o'clock tonight until 10 o'clock tomorrow.
He was on the air as a storm chaser during the Joplin tornado and has become a calming voice when severe weather threatens.
Yeah, I think Steve Scott's voice definitely puts listeners at ease because he is kind of a staple of the community. He's been around for a very long time. I think when people hear him, they trust him, especially when it comes to weather. That's something that Steve Scott does phenomenally. Is his weather reporting is really excellent. And I think when people hear his voice on air when there is tumultuous weather and they're getting a little nervous or a little antsy, I think it instantly puts them at ease because they go, I know I'm going to be informed and know what's going on because I hear Steve Scott.
That trust transfers to his news coverage and news reporting. He covers stories in the community and builds newscasts every morning.
He helped lead the Quapaw Nation for nearly 2 decades. His presence will be missed.
Steve Scott is something that you can depend on, you can believe in, and that when you hear that name and hear that voice, you know you're not getting somebody who's just started this the other day. You know, he's been around a while, he's very richly deserves the respect that he gets.
His 54-year career in broadcasting began in Sedalia, working at KDRO while in high school, and at the same time as a school news reporter.
3 times a week, I would put together a 5-minute newscast talking about activities going on in the high school. And I actually had a little cassette recorder and I did interviews and I edited them into the recording back at the station that I actually worked at night as a DJ. So I had access to the full news facilities.
It was a 7-day-a-week part-time job at $1.65 an hour.
But it was fun, I enjoyed it.
His fondest memory from Sedalia was in 1974, covering the Ozark Music Festival for station KDRO. It was Missouri's equivalent to Woodstock. His coverage of the event was carried on CBS Radio and KCMO and connected him with a music icon.
But it was hosted by Wolfman Jack. What I did not know until the last minute was, on the night before the Ozark Music Festival started, I had Wolfman Jack sitting in my studio for the full show being interviewed. And what was really great was we just talked like regular people while the records are playing, but as soon as we hit the microphone to talk, he went into Wolfman Jack character, and it was great.
Ben would lend his voice to nationwide commercials, a Branson-based game show pilot with Bob Eubanks called New Star Challenge, and many concert promotions.
This is a rare opportunity to spend a special evening with the musical legend Ronnie Milsap as WIBW-TV and Country Legends 106.9 present the Oak Ridge Boys Christmas Show.
Ben rarely used his real name as a broadcaster. He became Steve Scott when he moved to Joplin in 1975.
At Sedalia, where I started working in radio, I had a different on-air name. It was Brother Bob Scott. And when I moved to Joplin, I went to work for KQYX KSYN under William B. Neal's ownership. And he had a Bob James working there doing the news, who I understand is also in this Hall of Fame. And so I was told I could not use Bob.
In the late 1970s, the new Steve Scott would become a voice for both Southwest Missouri and Southeast Kansas on radio and television. DJ Tom Watts says he was a fan before becoming a co-worker.
He was a voice at KSN for years, but again, and then he actually DJ'd several of my high school dances growing up as well. So I was pestering him long before he ever pestered me.
Tom says his relationship with Steve Scott goes back 40 years. They became colleagues 25 years ago.
We started working together off and on professionally and competing against each other too. So used to listen to his station that he built from the ground up in Columbus, Kansas. They had a call-in show, but I'd listen to his show when he would do his show. We'd listen in the mornings. Sometimes the night shows when I really wanted to listen, because that was the call-in request show. Loved that.
Back then, the station was known as KCCU-FM. It's now KMOQ and owned by AMI Radio. Ben says it was a learning experience. Others say it's knowledge that makes him unique.
If you want to know something about radio in the 4 states, he's your man. He knows all the towers. He knows where everything is at. And it's a guy that loves the business, loves radio, loves being in radio, and somebody that loves to be on the air. Again, from being a guy that ran his own station, again, to being the guy that's on News Talk KZRG every morning, keeping people informed.
While the voice of KSN, Ben started another sideline business, operating 2 movie theaters from 1987 to 1994, one in Bolivar, Missouri, and one in Miami, Oklahoma. Between 1994 and 2008, Ben moved between multiple stations at radio groups.
Each one is totally different. It's not the same style of announcing, so I had to adapt to each one. But I was able to do it because of my experience over the years.
From AMI to Zimmer, back to AMI and KKOW, where he then spent 12 years. He's worn many hats at all of them, from announcer to program and news director, and even farm and ranch director. His current stop is back at Zimmer on News Talk KZRG with co-host Ted Bajorquez.
Working with Steve Scott is really cool. I think something that always impresses me is he really does have just a endless wealth of radio knowledge. His love for the medium that is radio and broadcast is insane. I mean, I will make a reference or make a joke or something, and he will relate it back to some historical time or some historical disc jockey or some song reference or something. And so, I mean, he is an encyclopedia of broadcast knowledge. It seriously baffles me.
KZRG News Time, 8:05.
With more than 50 years in the business, Ben's at ease navigating from scripts on screen to news sound bites to cueing his colleagues. Comfortable with technology because he's willing to change with the times.
10 seconds. I've had to be adaptable because of one thing was, when I started off, we were playing records. Then we went to cassette tapes. Then we went to reel tapes. Then we went to CDs. Then we went to computer. And when they were doing computer, I was one of the first ones to say, hey, teach me how to use this.
Still learning, still loving it, still living the life of a broadcaster. And now joining the Regional Media Hall of Fame.
I don't know who's more deserving, to be honest. I think Steve Scott, his love for this medium is unmatched by anyone I've ever met, and period, even within this own building. I think that his dedication to the community is unmatched as well. His dedication to accurate weather reporting to keep people safe, to being out on the street and getting to know the community. I think his dedication to being people first is huge. And that is something that, for a community-driven Hall of Fame, I don't know who else would fit in there better.
It feels wonderful. I've seen so many people that have gone into the Hall of Fame before me. And I was going, wow, it'd be nice to be able to do that someday. And then the fact that it's now happening, it just means so much to me.
That wraps up this special edition of Newsmakers on the Regional Media Hall of Fame. Congratulations to our inductees, and thank you for watching.